Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 46. Ishvare tad adhineshu balisheshu dvisatsu cha prema maitri kripopeksha यह करोति समध्यमः ईश्वरे तद्दहीनेषु बालिशेषु द्विसत्सु च प्रेम मैत्री कृपोपेक्षा यः करोति समध्यमः ईश्वरे तद्दहीनेषु बालिशेषु द्विसत्सु च प्रेम मैत्री कृपोपेक्षा यः करोति समध्यमः ईश्वरे तदधीनेषु बालिशेषु द्विसत्सु च प्रेम मैत्री कृपोपेक्षा यह करोति समध्यमः ईश्वरे तद्दीनेषु बालिशेषु द्विसत्सु च यः करोति समध्यमः मत ईश्वरे तद्दीनेषु बालिशेषु द्विसत्सु च यः करोति समध्यम. माताजी, Ishvare, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Tat Adhineshu, to persons who have taken fully to Krishna consciousness. Balisheshu, unto the neophytes or the ignorant. Dvisatsu, to persons envious of Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Cha, and. Prema, love. Maitri, friendship. Kripa, mercy. Upekshaha, negligence. Yah, anyone who. Karoti, does. Saha, he. Madhyamaha, a second-class devotee. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: an intermediate or second-class devotee called Madhyama Adhikari offers his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord, shows mercy to ignorant people who are innocent, and disregards those who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we are continuing the purport. Yeah. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given an elaborate explanation to prove that the discrimination employed by a Madhyama Adhikari does not at all show a lack of mercy. He states that upeksha or neglect, as mentioned in this verse, is the proper medicine for those who are inimical to the Supreme Lord and His devotees. Indifference from the preacher checks feelings of hostility on both sides. Although there is a Vedic injunction that one should cut out the tongue of a person who offends the Supreme Lord and His devotees, in this age it is best simply to avoid potential offenders and thus prevent them from committing further sinful activities against the Vaishnavas. It is the duty of a Vaishnava preacher to point out the futility of any process besides surrendering to the Supreme Lord. An envious person, however, will resent such strong preaching by a Vaishnava and disrespect him, considering the devotee to be unnecessarily criticizing others. Such a person who cannot appreciate the mercy of Vaishnavas should be neglected. Otherwise, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his cheating mentality will increase day by day. Those who are not attracted to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who disrespect the faithful servants of Lord Chaitanya, considering their strong statements about the Sankirtan movement to be obstacles to their own worship of the Lord, will never be able to fix their minds on Krishna, but will gradually fall down from the path of devotion by confusing the external activities of the material world with the actual worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Such bewilderment has been expressed by the words Bhayam Dvitiya Abhivineshataha Syat. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has strongly rejected those foolish persons who, under a plea of mercy and equal vision, perceive that a faithless person is also a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and who thus try to thrust the Harinam or holy name of God upon such offensive people. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has stated, when childish people think themselves Mahabhagavats and act in defiance of the Vaishnava spiritual master, such behavior simply holds them back from receiving the mercy of the Vaishnava Guru. Bewildered by false egos, these self-proclaimed devotees gradually become fit to be ignored by pure devotees on the intermediate platform and are cheated of the mercy that comes from the devotee's satisfaction. Thus, they become asadhu by constantly committing offenses against the devotees who preach the holy name of Krishna. Pure devotees, therefore, in all circumstances, display indifference to those who falsely imagine themselves to be Vishuddha Bhaktas or pure devotees of the Lord. This indifference is an excellent manifestation of their mercy. In other words, those who criticize the Vaishnava preachers on the second-class platform for discriminating between those who are fit to receive the Lord's mercy and those who are simply envious are misunderstanding the mission of the Lord. Lord Krishna himself states in Bhagavad Gita 4.8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I advent myself millennium after millennium. Even such a great Vaishnava as Sukadev Goswami, one of the 12 Mahajans in this universe, expressed his contempt for the evil Kamsa. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Kopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitalam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ishvare tad adhineshu balisheshu disatsu cha prema maitri kripopeksha yah karoti samadhyamaha. An intermediate or second class devotee called Madhyama Adhikari offers his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord, shows mercy to ignorant people who are innocent, and disregards those who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. So, yesterday, before I start actually, first like to take the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas and also like to express my gratitude to His Grace Radhika Vallabh Prabhu, because this part of the purport is actually quite heavy. There are quite a few things there which are not so easy to understand, so I took some of his guidance to understand some of these finer points. I'd like to express my gratitude to him. So yesterday His Grace Radha Gopinath Prabhu spoke about, how, beautifully he explained the levels, of people in this world, how people have different kinds of faith, and depending on their faith, there are people who are, who have faith that they want to just stay in this world and enjoy. They are looking for enjoyment in this world, but they are frustrated. Then those who are frustrated, they become indifferent. Some of them take to jnana. And then there are some of those who are faithful in the eternity of God. Eternity of God, eternity of the soul, eternity in the relationship with the Supreme Lord. And based on that, they take to the process of bhakti. And initially they are known as what we call as Kanishta devotees. Then when they advance, they become Madhyama, and finally the exalted stage is the Uttama Adhikari. So Prabhuji spoke about how the faith of other people, especially when we are in the Kanishta and the Madhyama stage, the faith of other people can affect our faith. Ultimately, our faith is the, it is, I don't know, I can't think of a good enough analogy, but, as they say, आदमी फुस हो गया, हवा निकल गया उसका. That hava which is there inside us is the faith which keeps us going, it Because there will always be challenges, there will always be difficulties in our bhakti. But it is that faith which keeps us going, faith in the association of devotees, faith in the mercy of the Lord, faith in the potency of the holy name, faith in prasad, so many things. With full faith we are taking all these things. So this faith is what keeps us going in bhakti. But it is the same faith that people have outside world. People have faith in the fact that there is no God, that this material world is all there is. This body is all I have for enjoyment, and this life is all I have for enjoying the way I want to. So as Prabhuji was saying, if their faith in the material world is stronger than your faith in bhakti, when these two people interact, then there can be a problem. As they say, when what is that phrase? When irresistible force meets an immovable object, then there has to be some big explosion, right? So we have to be careful, and today's verse actually speaks about this part of the purport, speaks about this. So Kanishta is a devotee who basically does the activities of bhakti. He is doing the activities of sadhana bhakti, and he does just that, yatha shakti, as per his or her capability, as per his or her faith. He performs the activities of bhakti, and that's it. The Kanishta devotee doesn't tend to go out and preach to anybody and give them Krishna and think, Baba, main apna karta hu, that's it, that's good enough, what I am doing is enough. But the Madhyama devotee is the one who, through years of maybe, sometimes it is months, sometimes depends on from what stage you are starting. If you are starting from your previous life, you have, done a lot of bhakti, and this life you are just picking up from there, then you may start immediately. But some people take a few years to start preaching to others because they are not sure about their own faith. Let me first be sure about myself, then let me bring others into this. So Madhyama is one who preaches, who does the activities of bhakti as Kanishta is doing. He does it with little more faith, little more conviction, but he also tries to bring others into bhakti by telling them what to do. This is what you need to do. Bhakti means this. These are the activities. This is the philosophy. This is the understanding. So he explains to them and he brings them into bhakti. And then the Uttamadhikari is one who doesn't even need to tell anybody what to do. The Uttamadhikari is such a pure devotee. He is so pure in his from inside, from outside, he is so pure that he doesn't even need to preach to people to tell them what to do. If you see the lecture of a pure devotee, very rarely he will tell you, please chant Hare Krishna. Very rarely. He will, of course, person who doesn't know anything, he may tell. But otherwise, a pure devotee who knows that there are devotees sitting in front, just by his mere behavior, just by his mere achar, he shows what is it that is to be done. He inspires by his action even more than by his words. He sometimes comes to the level of a Madhyama, as it is described here. The Uttamadhikari sometimes comes to the level of a Madhyamadhikari to preach to the people who are in a fallen state. He may come to that level, and at that level, when he comes to that level, otherwise Uttamadhikari really doesn't discriminate at all. He gives Krishna to everybody. Anyone who comes, he doesn't say, because he is so pure, he sees everyone as a spirit soul who is part and parcel of Krishna, and it is my duty to connect them again to Krishna. So he connects, the Uttamadhikari connects us to Krishna simply by giving us the katha, telling us about the pastimes of the Lord, the qualities of the Lord. By hearing that, the connection is made, because there is very direct wire connecting the fallen soul directly to Krishna. The transparent wire medium is the Guru or the Uttamadhikari. So there is no challenge there. Sometimes he comes to the level of the Madhyamadhikari, and sometimes he has to discriminate between a person who is envious of the Lord, envious of the Lord's devotees, and one who is innocent and is willing to listen. So this discrimination, a person who is, outsider, such a person may question, Hare, why are you discriminating like this? You know, there are many people who ask a lot of questions of ISKCON. They will not follow ISKCON. They will not follow themselves. They will not follow the path of bhakti themselves. But they will ask all sorts of questions. अरे आप लोग ऐसे क्यों करते हो? Why do you force people? Why do you force your children to do bhakti? They must do everything. You must allow them to grow up the way they want to. अरे why you all give Bhagavad Gita? Why you all charge money for it? You should give it free. It is knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. You should give it for free. So they have all kinds of questions. They will not follow, but they will ask questions. So one of the questions somebody may ask is that why do you discriminate like this in giving bhakti? You should give everyone. You should preach to everybody. So in answer to this this question somebody may ask, this part of the purport answers this question, and there is some lessons for us to learn there. So we'll try to discuss some of these points. The first point that is made, so the purport derives heavily from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he says, the discrimination employed by a Madhyam Adhikari preacher does not at all show a lack of mercy. So if there is an accusation that you all are not really merciful, if you are really merciful, we would preach to even those who are, envious. So it's not that this discrimination shown of not preaching to those who are envious of the devotees, envious of the Lord, why this is not a lack of mercy, that is what we'll try to discuss. So we have to understand that, what is this preaching? In the purport it is mentioned that a Vaishnava preacher tends to preach very strongly. This is a fact. We have all experienced this, right? Though, if you have experienced preaching of other people, those who preach other things, other paths, their preaching is actually very light. Very light. You don't feel the pressure, you don't feel anything, this. I remember many years back there was some drama performed by Yugavatar Prabhu and this Raval Tirth Prabhu and all these people. And in that, I still remember, Raval Tirth Prabhu, I think Yugavatar Prabhu tells him, मंदिर चलो, ISKCON मंदिर चलते हैं. बोलते हैं नहीं वो ISKCON मंदिर में जाएंगे, उनका बहुत heavy गिरता है अपने को, बहुत heavy गिरता है. Because the preaching that we give to people tends to be heavy, because we give them everything which are absolute statements. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the topmost. We have to accept. Then we speak about the fact that this is the best process. You may be following many, of course, we don't say that you may be following some process, but this is better. But we tell them that this is the best process. Isse behtar to kuch hai nahi. Then we speak about things like four regulative principles. There people get very, shaken. Many people get very shaken when they hear about four. They're okay till the point where you come to the temple, worship Shri Radha Gopinath, and you are told to chant Hare Krishna. Chalo, wo bhi theek hai. But when we are told to follow four regulative principles, it is quite heavy. For many people who have been doing it for many years, it is quite heavy. Now there may be some people who come to the process of bhakti and they have already been following four regulative principles. Just somehow, there are many people who have never in their life broken any of these four regulative principles. They have been very sattvic people, And such people, when they come to bhakti, what do they find heavy? No sense gratification. You cannot do any sense gratification. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. This is, too much of this is not good. Too much of that is not good. And if, Hare Baba, I am not doing anything else. I am chanting Hare Krishna. I am following four regulative principles. Let me be. No, but this also you should not do. So then that becomes heavy. Then sometimes people hear about the fact that, the Guru Parampara. We speak about Guru Parampara. That only if some Guru is coming in a Parampara, one of the four bona fide Paramparas, then he can be counted as Guru. Then we can take instructions from him. If he is preaching, which scripture is he referring to? कौन से मतलब ये वेद वाक्य है क्या? So all these statements that we make as preachers, can be quite heavy. For a person who is innocent, who doesn't have any misgivings towards devotees, doesn't have any misgivings towards, the process of bhakti or about Krishna, who's not envious of Krishna. For such a person, this is not such a big deal. ठीक है, बराबर है, it should come in parampara. बराबर, अरे, yes, he should refer to bona fide scripture. But someone who has that little bit of envy in their heart, ये अपने आप को समझते क्या है? What do they think of themselves? So then, because of that, because of this, heavy preaching that we do as Vaishnava preachers, sometimes people become resentful. They start resenting the devotees. Why they keep talking like this? Who do they think they are? Why should I listen to all this? Why should I accept all this? I remember, and as devotees, sometimes we don't get it. When we are preaching to somebody, we keep trying, even if that person is not willing. We don't even try to understand ki isko kya chahiye, what does this person need at this point. We give our philosophy because I have just learnt it. मैंने अभी सुना है, मेरे को बराबर आता है, मैं अच्छे से बोलूँगा. I remember when I was quite new, this is first 1 or 2 years, we used to have Janmashtami over here downstairs. So we used to have this big stall, preaching stall used to be put up. A big pandal was put up, and different stalls were there. And we used to go as volunteers because pura din you're fasting, so you might as well go down and do some service. So I was standing in one stall and I was preaching there, and I was new, so I was like, yeah, fired up. Let me preach to everybody. Yare dekho, tare kaho, Krishna Upadesh. So I was heavily preaching. So there was one person who came, who had this, as they call, deadpan expression on his face. His expression, there was no flicker. एक फ्लिकर भी नहीं था. उसको अच्छा बता रहा था, nice things I was telling him, that when you are coming to human life, ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithunam. I started from the basics of philosophy, started telling him the yuga dharma is chanting the holy names and this and that. So he started, for a long time there was no expression on his face, and I was thinking, why is he not reciprocating? Kuch to expression aana chahiye. Then suddenly with his deadpan expression, he asked me a question. He started asking me about Islam. So what do you think about Islam? So I thought, so I started, speaking about Islam from whatever we have heard. See, we have heard very little, we know very little about Islam. We have heard in Bhagavad Gita course few things which preachers have said. So I started saying those things to him, and his expression still didn't change. And he heard me out for 1 or 2 minutes, then I ran out of steam, right? Because there was not much to say. You don't know, so you can't speak. So I spoke, then he looked at me and he said that, by the way, I am a Muslim. Don't ever forget that. And what you are saying is not correct. You don't know anything about Islam, don't open your mouth. And I froze there. I said, my God. Because I was in my enthusiasm, not to say he was envious, he was not envious. But as a preacher, we should have some discrimination, some yellow signals, you should look for some yellow signals. Don't just keep on giving, your preaching, your prachar to that person without thinking. Luckily, it didn't snowball into anything major. He just kind of left. He had come with some other 1 or 2 friends. He was just kind of listening. He heard. And then when he saw that I am kind of crossing the line, he stopped me there. And then he left the place. So we have to be careful. I remember another incident. This is again when I was fairly new in Bhakti. I used to go by bus, there used to be a company bus which used to take me from my place, from Khar to Thane Belapur Road. So it was a long journey, 1 ghante ka journey tha. And we used to leave our home at 6:45. So very often, japa nahi hua hai, to bacha hua japa bus mein karte the. There was no choice, because I come back at 9:30 in the night. So I would do my rounds in the bus. And there was one more person, elderly person, who would observe me chanting. And ऐसा उसने 1-2 बार देखा मेरे को, and he had some expression on his face and a bit of a mocking expression, So once I saw, twice I saw, thrice I saw, then I started feeling ki ye kya hai, you know, how he's offending the Vaishnavas, you know. This is immature thinking, right? We don't know how to react. In the early days, we didn't react to everything. So after some time, I thought that, you know, maybe I should give him some understanding of what I am doing. So I started a little bit halka, you know, trying to preach to him. Now, as I started preaching to him, immediately, okay, his first reaction was, he blasphemed Krishna. First thing. The first thing that came out of his mouth, he started blaspheming Krishna. Oh, yeah, Krishna is like this. So, I was a little taken aback. But I said, "Theek hai, maybe, you know, he doesn't know. So, let me give him some more." So, next day I went with more mental preparation कि आज मैं उसको, I'll, you know, सब अलग-अलग तरीके से उसको मैं थोड़ा preach करने की कोशिश करता हूँ. Next day I went and again I started, you know, a little bit preaching to this guy. He then started a tirade. He just went on for 10-15 minutes. Bang, 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 about, you know, about what is Krishna, what he has done, how it is unfair, this, that, and so many things he spoke that after that I was dazed. After a point, I closed my eyes because I didn't want to, you know, listen to anymore. I closed my eyes and I stopped looking at him, and he also realized, he stopped. After that, I never again brought up the topic because I realized that the amount of blasphemy this person was doing, my bhakti is like, you know, it's like he will just crush it and rond ke chala jayega, as they say. Because I was very new in bhakti at that time. I just had some enthusiasm to preach, but I was getting crushed by his enthusiasm to, you know, to blaspheme. So therefore, we should know where to preach, where not to preach. There will be always some people in your life who will, you know, who will mock you. This person is to mock me also. He used to make fun of me. My another boss in my another job, he used to make fun of me, you know, because I used to wear tilak and go to office, and I was in a sales job. Sales job में रह के तिलक डाल के जाता है, तो he used to make fun of me. Oh, तू क्या बहुत बड़ा साधु है क्या? You know, he used to make fun of me. So again, same mistake. As I say, history repeats itself. Again, I made the same mistake. I thought maybe he's, you know, he's just ignorant. So let me give him. By this time, I had spent some maybe 6-7 years in bhakti, little bit more mature. So I tried to preach to him, you know, on a very basic level. You know that you know, as a human being, it is important to follow certain spiritual path, and to each his own. Each person can follow a different way. You know, I follow a path of bhakti, Vaishnav path. So, you know, it's okay. Or he became more, you know, more envious. And again, you know, sometimes when someone becomes envious and starts pushing back, now by that time you have also learnt a little bit of philosophy. So you also, your ego, sometimes it is our ego, you know, better sense tells us that drop it, not worth it, don't waste your time. Preach to somebody else, preach to someone who's innocent. But our ego also sometimes comes in the way, Are, how can he say this? Let me crush him. And of course, I didn't try to crush, I tried to push back, but then the impact was very, very bad, because he started then hounding me, became hostile. You know, what is spoken about over here in this purport, that then the person becomes hostile. You know, and he actually, he starts using every opportunity to blaspheme you, blaspheme Krishna, blaspheme Prabhupada, blaspheme the devotees. Whoever he gets, jo bhi chance mila he or she gets, they will start blaspheming. So, what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, to prevent them from committing further sinful activities against the Vaishnavas, to prevent them from becoming further offensive, better to be indifferent. It is better to be indifferent. Do not try to go and preach to a person who is so envious. initially everyone is envious, but after few interactions, we should immediately understand that you may preach in a crowd, like, you know, in a satsang, there may be 40 people who attend. Now you can't distinguish who is innocent, who is Krishna conscious, who is envious, you cannot. As a preacher, you may give Krishna Katha to everybody. But when you are preaching one-to-one with somebody, there you have to use your discrimination. Be careful. Because you don't want them hurting your faith. Be careful. And even if you see, even the mundane people who are non-devotees, they also show this discrimination they show. They also show indifference. You know, like we are told to show indifference because we don't want to leave the lotus feet of Krishna. We don't want to get shaken, our faith to be shaken up completely. बोलते हैं झंझोड़ के रख दिया, वो नहीं होना चाहिए. So therefore we should show discrimination. Even the people who are materialistic show this discrimination. If you see those who are strongly attached to meat eating, very strongly attached to meat eating, try telling them about the benefits of vegetarianism, or try telling them about why meat eating is sinful, or it is, you know, there is violence involved. Try telling them. What is their reaction when you tell them? They close their ears. They don't say Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu and run away, but they close their ears and go away from that place. They don't want to listen. Why they don't want to listen? You tell them, you send them a link. You know, I remember I had sent a link of this meet.org. You know, it is a link, it is a website created by PETA, PETA, you know, prevention of, what is that? Whatever, animals, you know, for animals, against violence to animals. So I had sent a link. They refused to even open the link. हम ओपन ही नहीं करेंगे. क्यों? नहीं पता नहीं क्या होगा, वो देख के हमको फिर शायद अपना हार्ट चेंज हो जाए. So if people who are so materialistic have so much discrimination that they don't want their faith to be changed, we must also show some discrimination. Because if we continue to preach to such people, there are either couple of things can happen, right? When you're preaching to such people, you know, Bhakti, in the purport it is mentioned there that they could either end up, what happens when you preach too much to somebody who doesn't want your preaching? Usko nahi chahiye wo philosophy. They don't want. They don't want to come into Bhakti. I remember I was one of them, so I can relate to this. That if you preach to somebody who doesn't want what you're giving, what happens? After some time they start avoiding you. If they are not envious of you or they don't want to offend you because, you know, whatever reason, they start avoiding. They start avoiding you. Or if they are unfortunate, they start blaspheming. They blaspheme Srila Prabhupada. They blaspheme Krishna. They blaspheme Lord Chaitanya. You know. Or sometimes, as it is said here, you know, they cheat. Their cheating just increases. So I was trying to, this is the point I was trying to understand with Radhika Vallabha. What is the meaning of cheating just increases? He says, the cheating just increases. What kind of cheating they are doing? The cheating could be sometimes devotees, you know, when they are preaching to somebody and after long efforts of preaching the person just to get rid of that devotee, I will start chanting. Chalu kiya? Chalu kiya. Bhagavad Gita, you give him a Bhagavad Gita, you know, desperately preach to him and give him a Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita पढ़ा क्या पढ़ा? वो just introduction थोड़ा पढ़ा. कितना पढ़ा यार? बहुत अच्छा है, बहुत बढ़िया है, very nice. And then they will keep telling one lie after the एक lie को छुपाने के लिए और 10 झूठ बोलने पड़ते हैं. So you know, they'll keep lying. The cheating increases. So why do we want to force people to become blasphemous? Why do we want to force people to cheat, to lie, to offend Vaishnavas? So, you know, it is said here, pretty heavy. Those blaspheming Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, what happens to them? They fall down from their path of worship. Whatever path they are following today, you know, they may be following some path, they may be doing something, but because of, you know, constantly, you know, us pushing them, they may even fall down. Because of us pushing them, they start blaspheming. You know, they start blaspheming Lord Chaitanya's movement. It is said those who blaspheme Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, they fall down from the path of worship. They even fall down because they are worshipping, they are blaspheming the Supreme Lord. So they will actually fall down from the path of worship. And as a result, what happens? Pretty heavy. They start confusing the external activities of the world to be devotion. They confuse the activities of the material world with the actual worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So actually their intelligence gets deviated because of the blasphemy they are doing. You know, like Prabhuji was mentioning that work is worship. Then for them, work becomes worship. They forget about actually worshipping the Supreme Lord. They only think work is worship. So we have to be careful. Somebody may be a devotee of Krishna and like they may be in a different parampara. They may be following a different way of worshipping Krishna. We should not disturb their faith. We should not tell them that what you are doing is incorrect. You must follow the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Only He can take us back to Godhead. In Kali Yuga, only this is the way. Hare Nam Eva Kevalam. Of course it is. It is true that Hare Nam Eva Kevalam. There is no doubt about it. But if somebody has faith in some other process, we should not tell them this is the only process. We should tell them, why don't you try this as well? If we tell them that this is the only way, what you are doing is incorrect, it disturbs their faith. So preaching is actually a very sensitive thing. It will be very sensitive. You know, in an audience when you are preaching, it is different. But when you are preaching person one-to-one, it is a very sensitive thing. Because you can hurt a person's faith. You know. And then there is another thing that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says in this purport, which is again quite heavy. So he speaks about preachers now who are going to the next level. Okay, the next level of preaching. When you are preaching, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, foolish persons, he is referring to us, to preachers. Foolish person, under the plea of mercy and equal vision, thrust the holy name upon offensive persons. Under the plea of what? Mercy and equal vision. We must give holy name to everybody. We must give equal rights to everyone. But then we should understand that what is happening as a result of that. We should have also the maturity to understand what is the impact of your actions. You know, there is one activist who is fighting very hard to ensure that all women get entry into all temples. Right? Now, if there is a temple that is following a particular, temple or religious place that is following a particular, manner of doing things, they have been following it for thousands of years and there is a good reason behind it. Now, if we tell you the reason, you don't like the reason. So, you may be doing it out of compassion. Possible. You may be doing it out of genuine compassion that, you want that, everyone should have an opportunity to come here and do this worship. But the persons who are recipient of your compassion, they may not have discrimination. They may not have understanding why this rule is in place, why they say that you should not go to the sanctum sanctorum, you should not go there at a particular time. There is some reason behind it. They don't know that. They will just take that opportunity. Chalo, we got opportunity. Sab log jao andar. So, understanding of why something is being said is very important before you debate that point. So a person who is foolish, who says that let me give Krishna to everyone, let me give Harinam to everyone, whoever is there's drunkard on the street, let me give him Harinam. It's all right. But if we start thinking that we know better than everyone else, if there is someone who actually advises you, leave this person, not worth it. This person is envious. Don't do it. But still, we think we know better. Let me deliver this person. Then we are getting into danger zone. Now we should understand, one is when you preach to an envious person, okay, and that person starts blaspheming, and your faith gets disturbed by that. That is one danger zone. But now suppose you have come to the platform of Madhyam Adhikari, where someone's blasphemy doesn't affect you so easily. Theek hai, he is blasphemous, he is envious. You may tend to label such a person as envious, But if you label and you move on, that's still all right. But now you think that no, you make it an ego issue, that I I must bring this person into bhakti. Let me make that effort. Let me try. Someone tells you, "Arey Baba, chhod de isko. Don't do it. It's not worth it. He's going to affect your bhakti. Don't do it." मैं देखता हूँ, मुझे पता है. I am in control. I know. Then we are crossing into another danger zone now. Now we are in that zone where we, in the name of mercy, we are thinking, I know better. I know better than Guru. I know better than my senior God brother who has advised me not to do this. So we should be careful. Like I'll give again one example. This is, of course, it's a mundane example, but for us to get a feel, that how our intelligence gets lost. Sometimes when we're in a particular quest, we are going after a particular person to preach to that person, our intelligence may get lost. Like, because I've been in sales, in sales sometimes we are given a particular customer and you are trying to win that customer. Now when you are working on that customer, you go on investing time. See, a salesperson keeps investing time in that customer. In one sense, it is like preaching. It's very similar to preaching. Because you are trying to convince that person about your product. Here we as preachers are trying to convince about our product. Our product is mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we are trying to sell that product to somebody. So same way in sales also you are trying to sell some product to somebody. Now you try to sell to that person, you spend, once you go, twice you go, 5 times you go, 10 times you go, and after some time that customer is not really showing that interest. But you have made it an ego issue. कि नहीं, अरे कैसे ना बोलता है यार, मेरे बाकी कोई कस्टमर मेरे को ना नहीं बोलते, ये क्यों ना बोल रहा है? Why is saying no? And you keep on investing time. And then your boss comes and tells you, क्यों अपना समय बर्बाद कर रहा है? छोड़ देना, leave it. So then you say, नहीं, I know, मैं एक दो और बार ट्राई करता हूँ, 1 or 2 more times, let me try. वो 2 का और 10 बार हो जाता है. Boss comes and again tells you, listen, because of what you are doing, तुम्हारे बाकी customers you are not spending time. Spend time with customers who are willing to buy. Baba, you are wasting all your time on this fellow, leave him. But still, that feeling ki, just abhi aur thoda, just little bit more, let me try one more. You become so desperate. And because of that, after some time what happens? Boss decides, अरे छोड़ो ये समझता नहीं, he doesn't understand. And boss becomes what? Indifferent. He becomes indifferent to you because that is the right thing to do for you. Because वो अच्छे से बोल के जो समझ में नहीं आता है, उसको ignore करना, उसको या तो उसको shout at him, or even after shouting doesn't work, then what does the boss do? He becomes indifferent. अरे छोड़ो, waste of time. इसको कुछ बोल के फायदा नहीं है. So in the same way, that desperation if we are having, we should understand. Someone comes and advises us, we have tried to preach to somebody, we have tried our best, we have done everything, but still the person remains envious or remains like a stone, unwilling to change. After some time, we should understand that it's not working out and move on. Spend that same time on preaching to somebody else. Someone who needs that, who needs to be connected to Krishna. Connect such people. Why we are insisting on preaching to somebody who doesn't want it? Right? Why are we so hell-bent that I must deliver this person? Even if someone comes and advises us, we start doubting the judgment of Guru. We start doubting the judgment of senior Vaishnavas. He doesn't know this person. I know. मैं इसके साथ टाइम बिता रहा हूं बाबा, आई नो बेटर, तुमको अभी तक आइडिया नहीं है. We don't say this, but in our mind, in our heart of hearts, we are thinking like this. So when we start doubting the authority or the judgment of our seniors, what happens? Vinashakale viparita buddhi. Fall down is imminent. You have to be very careful. That is what it is saying. That pure devotees, therefore, in all circumstances, display indifference even to those who falsely imagine themselves to be Vishuddha Bhaktas. I am a pure devotee. I am almost now on level of Uttam Adhikari, so I don't discriminate. Somewhere we have gone to that level in our minds. Spiritually we are still on Madhyama, but in our minds, in our ego, we have gone to level of Uttam Adhikari, that I don't discriminate. For me, they are all spirit souls. I want to preach to this person, make him a devotee. So if falsely imagining yourself to be Vishuddha Bhaktas or pure devotees of the Lord, then the best thing that the pure devotee can do, become indifferent. We have to understand, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, this indifference is an excellent manifestation of their mercy. Nice words he uses. It is the mercy of the pure devotee that he becomes indifferent to such a devotee who is trying to preach beyond his level. So, intelligent devotee after some time will understand, nobody is, I'm not getting any mercy. What happens? Fall down happens. Why? Because we are taking too much association of a person who is envious. We are not taking the advice, good counsel of somebody who is a pure devotee. Because of that, because of losing faith in the judgment of that devotee, we lose faith in the parampara. We think we are elevated. We think I am very elevated, I can deliver people. And because of that, what happens? The supply of mercy, we are dependent on mercy. We are like the gardener who is holding the hose pipe and gardening and watering different plants. Right? That water is not ours. It is coming from parampara. It is coming from the tap. That tap is releasing the water. I am only holding the pipe and putting it on different plants. But if that water only stops, what happens? Suddenly the supply of mercy stops, because you have become offensive. Not just you are dealing with an offensive person, because of hearing their offensive attitude, you become offensive to your guru, to your seniors. And the supply of mercy dries up. And the person who you are preaching to, unpe koi effect nahi hua. It's like pouring water on duck's back. Unko koi farak, they didn't become bhakta. But their qualities start rubbing off on you. Their lack of faith in Krishna consciousness after some time starts rubbing off on us. And if you have become offensive, one is to lack faith in the judgment of others. If you have started becoming offensive, and it can happen over a period of time, we also become offensive. If you have started becoming offensive, you have lost faith, and you are still listening and associating people who are offensive, what happens? The worst thing can happen. Maya starts attacking you. Because now you become very vulnerable. All the shield is gone, association of devotees, the mercy is gone, everything is gone. Maya starts attacking you. As they say, Maya knows your ins and outs. So Maya attacks you through that person exactly where your weak point is. He or she will say something or do something that hits you. And you say, Hare haan yaar, ye sahi bol rahe hai. Itne saalon se I have been in bhakti, I have seen this problem. And no one wants to acknowledge this problem. It's right. And your bhakti starts getting shaky. Your faith starts getting shaken. So, the whole point behind saying this is we should be careful, right? And how this part of the purport is concluded. He says, in other words, those who criticize the Vaishnava preachers on the second class platform for discriminating. So therefore, we should be careful. First, we should discriminate. And if there's somebody who's making that discrimination, don't think you are more intelligent. Do not criticize those who are on the second class platform for discriminating between those who are fit to receive the Lord's mercy and those who are not. Because if you do, you are misunderstanding the mission of the Lord. Even the Supreme Lord, even Shri Krishna is saying, as he is quoting here, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. He also discriminates, Paritranaya sadhunam. He comes to deliver the saintly, the innocent. Vinashaya cha dushkritam. He doesn't say Paritranaya dushkritam. He doesn't say that. Vinashaya cha dushkritam. Those who are envious, beyond a point you cannot deliver them. They need to be destroyed. Their false ego needs to be destroyed, crushed. then they will slowly understand that it is futile trying to, fight against the will of the Lord. And then they may, some point in their life, become more, amenable to bhakti. That time we preach to them, immediately they will take to it. Right? Even in 18.67, Krishna says, this confidential, immediately after saying Sarva Dharman Parityajya, next verse he says, this confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. Krishna is saying this immediately after saying Sarva Dharman Parityajya. Imagine, because he also must be conscious, even the Supreme Lord is conscious, that I am saying Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Now, if you go and say that to an envious person, abandon all varieties of religion, whatever you are doing till now is bogus. Just surrender to Krishna. Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita. Right? So, even Krishna is conscious, even he is sensitive. He is saying, don't give this knowledge. This knowledge don't give to one who is envious of me. You see? So, and finally he says in the purport, even Sukdev Goswami, who is a pure Vaishnava, who is Uttama Adhikari, even he discriminates, and he also expresses contempt for Kamsa. While he is Uttama Adhikari, who doesn't discriminate, who preaches to everybody, but he also somewhere discriminates, know that this person is not worth it. One last point I'd like to make is, what if the person we are preaching to is our own brother, sister, father, mother, daughter, son, near dear ones who are extremely envious? Then what we should do? So this is a question that may come in our mind, that how do we deal with this? What do we do? Because we may be in that situation, that unfortunate situation, where someone was very dear to us, because it's really dear, not because it's an ego matter, I must make this person devotee, but that person is dear to us, and I feel the need to make this person a devotee. Then what we should? So in such situations, you have to understand that too much of preaching is not going to help. Then instead of preaching or teaching, it is better that we just pray for that person. We should just pray. Keep praying to the Lord daily that, my Lord, if it is your desire, please, make this person also a devotee. Keep praying for such a person. Keep giving Mahaprasad to such a person. Mahaprasad is slow poison. It's not slow poison. I'll say it is poison. It's very potent. For some people, if they are, as they say, papo ka ghada bhara nahi hai, then little bit of Mahaprasad also immediately, can affect their consciousness. But if there's somebody who is very envious, just keep giving them Mahaprasad. Just keep praying for them. Just be nice to them. They don't want your bhakti. Unko nahi chahiye wo. But because of bhakti, because you have taken to bhakti, and that person has not taken to bhakti, if you start becoming nasty towards that person, their indifference doesn't work. If it is a near and dear person, indifference doesn't work. Then love works. You have to be loving to that person as though it's all right. I mean, not even saying, it's all right, you are not taking, but you are a fallen person, but that's all right, I'll be compassionate. No. Out of love for that person, out of genuine concern for that person, if we just, do our bhakti, set a wonderful example yourself by being a very sincere, fixed up devotee who follows all principles without deviating, and at the same time also, serve that person in the most loving manner possible. Treat that person as though it has not affected me in any way that you have not come to bhakti. It's all right, I will deal with you in my usual relationship with you. It's just that I will not preach to you. That has far more impact than us trying to, bang that person on the head every time. And when the person doesn't accept the philosophy, reject that person. Hey, tum to koi kaam ka nahi hai. Kabhi bhakti mein nahi aayega. Right? So, of course, it's difficult for us to be able to, discriminate whom we should preach to, whom we should not preach to. But most important, if someone advises us not to preach, as devotees, preaching is an important service. It's definitely an important service. This is a preaching movement. We want to make more and more devotees. But as preachers, we should learn to discriminate whom to give this message, for how long to persist, at what point to give it up, and certainly not judge those who have this discrimination when we don't. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.